So I think the key question is really how can fragility and an understanding of fragility that is very local, that is based on political economy analysis, that is conflict sensitive, reinforce the activities and the objectives that we want to achieve with the Global Gateway, across both sides of the partnership. By July 2024, 1 in 7 people globally was affected by conflict. So that shows, I think, that fragility and also conflict is really an issue of concern. At the same time, humanitarian needs have also increased, but the spending has not matched it. There's an unmet humanitarian need that's not funded. So there's a gap there. So I think that's the context in which we try to work and that we try to also see how can we more effectively and better respond to these challenges of fragility, conflict, humanitarian need, because those are undermining also the development of those regions. So in this context, we've been trying to see how the EU and different EU actors, including development agencies, but also humanitarian actors, peacebuilding organizations, are trying to, come to grip or sort of grapple with those challenges in fragile settings. We conducted over 30 interviews with 30 experts and practitioners with a specific focus on the Central Sahel. So that's also where, there's an overlap between fragility, conflict, but also politically difficult relationship with Europe. And I think what came out quite strongly is that there's a mismatch between what's happening on the ground in terms of how, for example, development agencies or development actors are engaging with local authorities, but also central governments at the technical level, and the discrepancy with, the absence of a strategy at the European political level. And there's missed opportunities potentially in that as well, in terms of the leverage that the results and the communication and the activities and relationships that are actually happening on the ground could also be used as a basis for reconstructing relationships with the central governments and trying to, refocus on the long term and the systemic changes and the joint objectives that you want to achieve. We hope that this paper, which we see as part of a broader discussion on how the EU engages in strategic regions, will contribute to a discussion on how to engage in fragile settings. There's a huge need in those settings to respond to humanitarian needs, but also not to forget or not to lose some of the gains that have been made in terms of development. And these settings are not easy and really require a long-term investment. And we do hope that this research and other initiatives related to that will contribute to the ongoing discussions. We thought also in collaboration with GIZ and Inabel that the time was really now to say something about the need to not forget about fragile settings, because ultimately, not responding to those regions will affect and possibly undermine what the EU does across the world or in its external engagement.